White made a move. King e3. Pause the video to find out black's response. On h3. Knight f2. On h2. Black wants to play. Knight f6. King e2. King g2. Knight h1. Knight d5. Knight f2. Knight f4 check, and secure a stronghold in the game. On a3 played by white. Knight f6. King e2. King g2. Black might go for Knight g4. Knight takes g4. Pawn promotes to queen at h1 and establish a winning position. On b4 move preferred by white. Knight e4. Black is looking to play knight takes f2 and increase their advantage significantly. Knight takes e4 played by white. Pawn promotes to queen at h1. Black wants to play queen h3. King d2. Queen takes a3. Pawn b5. King f3 and take decisive advantage. King d3. White's loss is confirmed. Let's go to the next game. White played knight takes g5. Pause the video to find out black's response. King f6. Knight e4 check. King takes f5. Knight f2. King e6. King e4. Knight e2. Black is looking to play knight c3 check. King d3. Knight takes a2 and increase their advantage significantly. King d3 move preferred by white. Knight c1 check. King d2. White's idea is to play king takes c1 and dominate the board. Knight takes a2 move preferred by black. Knight d3. Black is dominating the board. Let's go to the next game. Black just played king d2. Pause the video and try to find white's next move. On b5. Knight g3. On b6. White wants to play on b7. King e2. Pawn promotes to queen at b8 and take decisive advantage. Knight f5 was chosen by black. King c5. White is planning to play on b7. Knight e3. Knight e5 and secure a stronghold in the game. Knight e3 was chosen by black. On b7. White is preparing to play knight e5. Knight f5. Pawn promotes to queen at b8 and increase their advantage significantly. Knight takes g4 played by black. King takes d4. King e2. Pawn promotes to queen at b8. King f3. White is clearly ahead. Let's go to the next game. Black just played knight c6. Pause the video to analyze white's next move. King takes b7. Knight e5. King takes a6. King f5. King b7. Knight d3. Pawn c6. Knight c5 check. King b8. Knight a6 check. King a7. White is looking to play king takes a6 and dominate the board. Knight c7 move preferred by black. King b7. White wants to play king takes c7 and increase their advantage significantly. Knight e8 move preferred by black. On c7. Knight f6. Pawn promotes to queen at c8 check. King f4. White is dominating the board. Let's go to the next game. White played knight e5 check. Pause the video to find out black's response. Knight takes e5 check. Pawn takes e5. King d5. On b4. King takes e5. King c4. King d6. Black might go for King c6. On b5 check. King b6. King b4. On e5, and increase their advantage significantly. King b5 move preferred by white. On f5. King c4. On e5. Black intends to play. King c6. King d3. King b5. King c3. On e4. King d4. King takes b4, and increase their advantage significantly. King b5 played by white. On f4. Black is aiming to play. On f3. King a4. On f2. On b5. On promotes to queen at f1, and dominate the board. King c4 played by white. King c6. Black is preparing to play. On f3. On b5 check. King b6. King d3. King takes b5, and secure a strong hold in the game. King d3 move preferred by white. King b5. Black's idea is to play king takes b4, and secure a strong hold in the game. King e4 played by white. King c4. Black is setting up to play king takes b4, and take decisive advantage. On b5 played by white. White is preparing to play. On b6. King c5. On b7, and establish a winning position. King c5 was chosen by black. Black might go for King b6. King f3. King takes b5, and gain a significant edge. King f3 was chosen by white. King takes b5. King e4. White is outplayed. Let's go to the next game. White played Knight c4. Pause the video to find out black's response. On e4 check. King e3. Knight takes c4 check. On takes c4. King e5. King e2. On f4. King d2. King f5. King d1. On h4. King e2. On takes g3. On takes g3. On e3. Black is planning to play King e4. On takes f4. King takes f4. King d1. King f3. King c1. On e2. King d2. King f2, and secure a strong hold in the game. On h4 played by white. On takes h3. King f3. On h2. On g4 check. King e5. On g5. On promotes to queen at h1 check. King g4. Black is clearly ahead. Let's go to the next game. White played King f3. Pause the video to figure out black's next move. On c3. Knight a3. On c2. Black intends to play pawn promotes to queen at c1, and secure a strong hold in the game. Knight takes c2 was chosen by white. King takes c2. On h4. King d3. Black is aiming to play on e5. On g3. On e4 check. King f4. On e3. King e5. On e2. King e6. On promotes to queen at e1 check, and seize the initiative. King f4 move preferred by white. King d4. King f3. On e5. On g4. On e4 check. King g3. On e3. Black might go for on e2. King f2. King d3. On takes h5. King d2. King g3. On promotes to queen at e1 check, and gain a significant edge. Pawn takes h5 move preferred by white. King e4. King g2. King d3. Black might go for pawn e2. King f2. King d2. King f3. Pawn promotes to queen at e1 and secure a stronghold in the game. King f1 move preferred by white. King d2. King g2. Pawn e2. King f3. Pawn promotes to queen at e1. Black is looking to play queen takes h4 and dominate the board. King g4. White has no response. Let's go to the next game. Black made a move. King takes e5. Pause the video to figure out white's next move. Knight d3 check. Knight takes d3. King takes d3. King f5. Pawn a4. Pawn g5. Black intends to play pawn takes h4 and put immense pressure on the opponent. Pawn takes g5 played by white. King takes g5. King e4. King f6. Pawn a5. White intends to play King f4. King g6. Pawn a6. King h5. King f5. Pawn g5. Pawn a7. King h4. Pawn promotes to queen at a8 and sees the initiative. King g5 played by black. King e5. King g4. Pawn a6. White is planning to play pawn a7. King g3. King f5. King f3. King g6. King e3. King takes g7 and increase their advantage significantly. King f3 was chosen by black. King f5. White is planning to play pawn a7. King e3. King g6. King d4. King takes g7 and dominate the board. King e3 was chosen by black. Pawn a7. King d3. King g5. King e4. King g6. King d4. King takes g7. King c5. Black is struggling to keep up. Let's go to the next game. White played pawn a5. Pause the video to figure out black's next move. Pawn f3. Pawn a6. Pawn takes g2. Pawn a7. Pawn promotes to queen at g1. Black is setting up to play queen takes a7 and gain a significant edge. Pawn promotes to queen at a8 move preferred by white. Queen d1 check. King d2. Queen d4 check. King c2. King f4. Queen f8 check. King e3. Black considers playing pawn g2. Queen h6 check. Queen f4. Queen g7. Queen c4 check. King b1. Queen takes b4 check and take decisive advantage. Queen g8 was chosen by white. Queen e4 check. King b2. Pawn g2. Black is preparing to play queen d4 check. King a3. Queen a1 check. King b3. Queen d1 check and establish a winning position. King c1 was chosen by white. King f2. Black intends to play pawn promotes to queen at g1 check. Queen takes g1 check. King takes g1 and gain a significant edge. King d2 played by white. Queen d5 check. Queen takes d5. Pawn takes d5. King d3. Pawn promotes to queen at g1. Black wants to play queen d1 check. King c3. King e3. Pawn b5. Queen a4. Pawn b6. Queen d4 check. King b3. Queen takes b6 check and seized the initiative. King d4 White's loss is confirmed. Let's go to the next game. Black just played. Knight e8. Pause the video to spot White's next move. King f7. Knight d6 check. King takes g7. On h5. King g6. King c6. King takes h5. King d7. King g6. White is planning to play. On h5. Knight e4. On h6. Knight takes f2. On h7. Knight e4. On g4. Knight f2. King f5 and establish a winning position. King e7 played by black. On h5. White is aiming to play. On h6. King e6. On h7. Knight f7. King g7. King e7. On promotes to queen at h8. Knight takes h8. King takes h8 and gain a significant edge. King f8 move preferred by black. On g4. Knight e4. On h6. White might go for. On h7. King e7. On promotes to queen at h8 and increase their advantage significantly. King g8 was chosen by black. On f4. Knight c5. On g5. Knight d3. On f5. King h8. King f7. King h7. King e6. Knight c5 check. King e7. White is planning to play. On f6. King g6. On f7. King f5. On promotes to queen at f8 check and increase their advantage significantly. Knight e4 was chosen by black. On g6 check. King takes h6. On f6. White might go for. On g7. Knight c3. On promotes to queen at g8 and establish a winning position. King takes g6 played by black. On f7. King f5. On promotes to queen at f8 check. King e5 black is outplayed. Let's go to the next game.